Randon Fontenette is standing out in practice so far. He'll be a vital piece to this defense.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Well, after practice number 6, it's safe to say that defense won the day. They made it nightmarish for the quarterbacks as Pavia and Johnson struggled mightily today. But the offense was just out of rhythm. They're starting to figure some things out, or they're trying to figure some things out, and the defense is improving by the day. But on defense, the front seven's really starting to mesh, especially the defensive line, who were outstanding, and they opened up opportunities behind them for the linebackers. But one in particular may end up actually being the MVP of this defense, or he's going to be a vital piece, that's for sure. MVP or not, Randon Fontenette is a special player. He is really, really kicking it into a high gear. I think when you look at, I think at the end of the season, when you go back and rank the transfers and see who it was that really truly made massive differences, I think you're going to look at Randon Fontenette and say that he is the one. All right. And he's somebody that, again, wasn't sure kind of where he'd fit in because he's big, physical. He can run a little bit. He can cover. He can do a lot of different things, has a lot of different tools. So wasn't really sure exactly where he was going to fit because CJ Taylor, DeRicky Wright are very similar players. Dante Carter is a different type of player. He'll play a different type of role. Marlon Sewell is also getting in on the action as well back there at safety. So I think there's a lot of things that are happening with this defense that I think give Clark Lee a lot of wiggle room, a lot of flexibility. I mean, he's all over the place, man. When you talk about Randon Fontenette, I mean, he is somebody that I think will allow you. And I said this, I've been saying this every time I talk about defense before spring practice, really, during spring practice, after spring practice, and now at the beginning of fall camp. I think the same thing is going to hold true. I think that Clark Lee has the pieces on the back end to really be able to do some things and have some flexibility within the scheme that he wants and try to achieve some looks, some coverages, some blitzes, some pressures, whatever you want to say, to be able to accomplish what he's going to accomplish. And having Randon Fontenette, who, God almighty, he's going to be a key part of this defense because that star position, I think depending on the situation, depending on what personnel packages the other offense is running, I think is going to be vital. I think it's going to be a key piece to this defense because against spread teams, he has the build, the size, and the physicality to play down low and stop the run against spread teams, while also at the same time being able to cover, being able to play zone, being able to play man. He's been somebody that's been really difficult to win one-on-one reps. I think I said that. I want to say I said that on yesterday's episode. So many of these fall camp episodes are going fast and furious, so I don't know exactly which ones. They all kind of start to run together, but like Randon Fontenette is, and that's a name that I didn't think I'd see talking about coverage one-on-ones being so tough to get open on because he's so long, physical, stays with you, has good technique, has good footwork, and is able to make up for, I don't want to say deficiencies because he's certainly not slow, but again, just somebody that can cover a lot of ground. So I've that's going to be a vital piece there. And the safeties, the construction of the safety position, I think this gives you a chance to play 3 safeties while also maintaining integrity in coverage, while also at the same time maintaining integrity versus the run. And that, I think, gives Clark Lee a lot of hope that this defense is going to be stout, is going to be fast, and possibly explosive. I think we're leaning towards that because you've got some pieces in the front seven, too, that I think are explosive. I think you've got some linebackers also that are starting to really kind of play up. And this honestly, this speaks a lot to the coaching for Clark Lee. I mean, to have Bryce Cowan, Langston Patterson, Prince Colley, all of those guys, that trio of linebackers really making a lot of plays. You have Brian Longwell as well, and you're just it's just there's a lot of people vying for different spots. I think you're going to see different situations and different people in on different situations. I think you're going to start to get Vanderbilt in a situation to where I'm saying situation a lot, but that you're going to get Vanderbilt in a place where they can make these, hey, it's 3rd and long, we need faster personnel on there, or it's 3rd and short, we need to get our big body guys in there, but we need to make sure we have some guys that can A, stop the run, and B, cover somebody out of the backfield if it's like a jumbo set or like a 12 or 22 type personnel package. So I think you're starting to see a lot of guys step up, which means that they're well coached and the talent has always been there. It's just been a lack of identity, a lack of whatever. So going to the front four, growing to the front seven, this is going to be interesting how it all kind of shakes out, because when you look at the front seven and you look at the opportunities it presents for the secondary, and even when you break down the front seven, you go defensive line, linebackers, you just think of the possibilities that this defensive line is making for them. So Yellen Altara, I'm pretty sure I butchered that. Somebody out there can give me a name pronunciation guide on that one. Bradley Mann, Corday Sidnor, I think defense along the defensive line are really standing out. I mean, I'm not surprised about Sidnor. Zaylen Wood is also somebody that's standing out along the defensive line too. I think these guys are really starting to play extremely well. You have Demarion Thomas, Glenn Seabrooks, of course, Altara, who I think are vying for that nose guard position. Ted Gregory is somebody that did a lot of good things today. I don't know where he stands, but it's just when you look at what they were able to do with the defensive line, being able to stop the run. And they had a red zone period, from what I gather. They had a red zone period at the beginning of practice. And this defensive line stuffed the run. Didn't even have a chance. Like, not just stuffed the run, blew up the run in the backfield type scenario. And so what that does now is it allows the defense to not have to blitz in order to get numbers. It allows and it's, it's having that disruptive defensive line that allows you to do creative things with your linebackers, so that maybe you can start mixing up coverages with your safeties and corners. Maybe you can start doing a little bit of cover zero down in the red zone, especially the tight red zone, and maybe be able to get some stops. I mean, you've got some talent there along the defensive line, and now you've got a defensive coordinator that understands what the talent can, what these guys can do, what the talent can do essentially, and understands, hey, I need to disrupt run lanes with these front four. I need to put some pressure on the quarterback with these front four or these front three, depending on what they're in. And so they did just that today, and they struggled. The offensive line struggled a bit, but again, there's going to be times where they struggle. They're going against what is starting to shake out as a really, really good run defense. And so don't hit the panic button on that just yet, because it's not quite time to press the panic button on the offensive line there, because they're trying out different combinations. Maybe today's combination didn't work. They had moments, but there were times they got to a horrendous start and they just kind of got pushed around. So it's, when you read things like this, it's good news, bad news, because the offensive line, was essentially terrible today. So you're probably thinking the sky's falling over there. But when you read about it, you can also say, well, hey, the defense played pretty dang good today as well. So we at least got that going on. And what I like about it is the fact that it's a competitive period, and it's giving this offensive line competitive reps. You have to break these guys occasionally, right? Like the offensive line at some point is going to turn around and dominate the defensive line, and they're going to learn, okay, well, this, what we're doing here doesn't work. This technique, I need to refine it, or whatever the case may be. This offensive line is going to use this film and learn from it, because it's not, getting beat is not, you're not defeated until you lay down and quit. And I think they're going to just go back to the drawing board and try to answer. Now they understand, okay, these offensive linemen are probably, blocking different schemes and understand where guys are going to be. And now they can anticipate a little bit better. This is making both units really, really good. And to have really competitive, fierce competitions like that is absolutely, absolutely great. So, competition, offensive line, run game, versus the run, all of that good stuff. These battles going back and forth are amazing. We'll talk about the impact of those battles next. All right, this episode is brought to you by Gametime. Did you know that Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier? And prices on Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. So what you're going to see when you open up a game, okay, looking up the Sounds games right now, because that's the baseball thing that's going on, minor league baseball here in town. All right, so you're going to get last-minute deals, okay? You save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. They want to sell the tickets. So they're going to give you some great deals last minute. They're going to entice you. Hey, man, this is a great price for this Sounds game. Maybe I should go. All right. You can also save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. So if I'm looking at this weekend, I can say, hey, section 112 has got a nice little special going on. Let's get that. And speaking of sections, you can save even more with zone deals if you let Gametime choose the seats and you choose the section. And what's great about it is you get all in pricing. So if you this feature will show you the total up front and will give you no surprise fees at checkout, which is always great. Seat views is my favorite part of this app. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Can't beat it. All right. And what else you can't beat is the lowest price guarantee. You heard that correctly. Gametime has the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will actually credit you 110% of the difference. Gametime ticket coverage means that your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So if any or all of that sounds great to you, you need to take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Right. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen of the day. For your second, enjoy the Locked On College Football podcast. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with discussion on the upcoming season in the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, new college football expanded playoffs, and more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, as an option for your second listen, Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC. If you want to if you're out by the pool and you know you're going to be there for a couple hours, why not with your waterproof Bluetooth speaker? just throw on a string of podcasts, right? This show, Locked On College Football, Locked On SEC, Locked On Auburn, Locked On Ole Miss with Stephen Willis. Just run the whole gamut of Locked On shows. All right, you can even listen to my full season, right? And and get some exciting stuff going on and catch up on all the episodes you missed of the Locked On Vandy podcast. So, everydayers, thank you. Let's keep this train rolling, okay? Well, defense, right? And I've been leading with the quarterback race, and for good reason. They've given me good reason to lead with it. But I think it's fair, and I think that it needs to be said and needs to be talked about that when the defense actually wins the day, they get top billing, and deservedly so. Randon Fontenette is a baller. Okay, we know about CJ Taylor. He was a little bit banged up. He was a non-participant. Nothing threatening. If there was a game this week, he would be playing in it. But mostly precautionary stuff. Just getting him better so that in the long run, he's around, and he's around on August 31st. So nothing, I don't think, too worrisome there with CJ Taylor. So just keep that in mind. He was a non-participant, but Dante Carter also banged up a little bit. Same. If it was a game week, he would probably be going, but it is not. So he's okay, and he's just again getting precautionary treatment. So that opens up opportunities for DeRicky Wright, Marlon Sewell. You have Hughes, and you have Marlon Sewell also that's opened up opportunities for. And so what I really like before we really kind of get into offense is that these guys, these linebackers especially, I'm really excited about them as well. And when we talked about the defensive line a little bit, how they're getting after it. I mean, Corday Sidnor is the juice leader of the defense. He is the guy that is really kind of getting things fired up for the defense. I mean, he came in, he was immediately endeared himself to the locker room, immediately made himself known and made his presence known in one-on-ones during spring practice, and is immediately doing the same thing in fall camp. He's going to be a standout as well along the defensive front. Randon Fontenette is going to be a pure baller. The guys around him, I think when you look at who else has been standing out, Taco Wright had an amazing day. I think the cornerback position is something that needs to be talked about as well. Guess who was named to the Athletics All Freak list? That's right. If you didn't guess it, it's Colby Taylor. He is the big 6'3" corner, was named to the Freaks list, and of course Eli Stowers as well at tight end. But I mean, Colby Taylor's a monster over there at corner, and he's somebody that they're trying different combinations. It's kind of like the offensive line. They're trying different guys in different situations and trying to figure out who can do what. But none of this matters if the defensive line is not balling out. If the defensive line is not balling out, quarterbacks can stand back there and pick these things apart, especially if it's man coverage. Because I might be the greatest athlete in the world, but I can't cover for more than 6 seconds. More than 4 seconds. If it gets north of 4 seconds, whoever I'm guarding is gone. They're open wherever they are. If the quarterback can get it to them, they're open. Okay, and I imagine a lot of the same. So defensive line plays their vital part there in putting pressure on the quarterback, even if they're not getting sacks. If they're pushing the pocket and making the quarterback or giving the quarterback something to think about, you're in good shape there on the defensive line. So Taco Wright, somebody that's gonna push for playing time. Colby Taylor is somebody that's going to be pushing for playing time over there at the cornerback position as well. That battle is far from over too. So you've got to be excited about this defense, man. I mean, it's just, man, there's so many good things happening over there with the linebackers. I mean, I think you're going to have 3, maybe 4 really good linebackers with Cowan, Patterson, and Colley. and Longwell. I think you're going to have 4 really good guys that can rotate in there. I think with Corday Sidnor, Zaylen Wood, Ruth, I think you're going to have some good defensive ends. Bradley Mann, Yylin Altara, I hope I got that right, is also very good along that defensive line. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of options here when you're looking at different guys that are going to contribute on the defensive side of the ball. So this is where Vandy's going to hang their hat. Okay, you're looking for an identity just as the team overall. I think fierce defense is going to be the calling card for this Vanderbilt team. This defense is going to set the confidence, set the tone for the rest of the team. At least as of right now. The offense could chime in and say, no, we're going to set the tone. And it could be just a combination or a competition of who's going to set the tone, which is a competition I'm here for, because if the offense is trying to outdo the defense and the defense is trying to outdo the offense, especially if they're trying to do that against Virginia Tech, the defense is like, no, I'm going to get the pick. And the offense is like, no, well, I'm going to hit the bomb. I'm going to get the momentum. And they're going to be fighting to get momentum. Next thing you know, they've rolled up 40-something points, and Virginia Tech's only rolled up like 7. So that's not a score prediction, but that kind of thing can happen if you have a team competing like that. So, the defense was dominating today, but the offense has got to, somebody in a practice and inter squad, one side is good, the other side honestly has to be bad. And this fell on the offense today. The offense was a struggle today. We'll talk about those struggles next. All right, welcome back. Thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We are the number one Vandy podcast on all the podcast land. All right, Locked On Vandy podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen. Thank you to the everydayers. Without you guys, it would not be possible, and I appreciate it tremendously. And so help this thing continue to grow. It is less than a year old, so still in the infancy stages of this show. So what better way to do it? What better way to grow it than to have a great football season? So, but the bad news of practice today, and thankfully this hasn't been a theme, and maybe it'll just be a fluke that this happened, but the offense struggled pretty good today. The quarterback race, especially, I think the quarterbacks were just off kilter. The offense was out of rhythm. The offensive line was out of sync. They weren't communicating well. They weren't holding their blocks. They were getting beat by a more upbeat group that I think got into their heads a little bit. The running backs weren't running well. The receivers just weren't getting separation. The quarterbacks couldn't hit them when they did. They made some bad throws, some really bad interceptions. I just spent a whole episode talking about ball security and how they've done a fairly good job of taking care of the football. And today, it's like when you have a child, and you're like, yeah, my child can do this. And when it comes time for your child to do this, they like to make a liar out of you, and they don't do this. Instead, they just sit there. Well, this is another case of that. This is like that. You're like, okay, I told these people you could do this, and now you're making a liar out of me, right? Offensively too. But, I mean, it was bound to happen. I mean, this defense was getting better by the day. They were getting more confident. They were getting, better fundamentally, better schematically, and more understanding of what their goals were and what their reads are, and the nuances of Clark Lee's defense. They were bound to get better, and there was going to be a point at some portion of this fall camp. Thankfully, the good news is that it's early, so that's the good news. The offense has time to get this thing turned around. It's not like it was the Tuesday before Virginia Tech, and you're like, oh crap, what are we going to do? We're screwed. That's not the case at all. The offense has plenty of time to get things back on track and get these quarterbacks just kind of in a better rhythm. I think get the offensive line in a better rhythm to where they can protect a little bit better. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that happened that I think when they watch on film, they're gonna realize that, okay, I mean, maybe it's not all bad, or maybe a block here, a block there, and we got this right. But I mean, the quarterbacks were just downright awful, both of them yet. And it's just, again, Diego Pavia badly underthrew a go route and caused an interception. Nate Johnson basically handed it to a linebacker. I think it was Bryce Cowan too. They missed throws. They hit some throws. They made some good throws. They had some good plays. I don't want it to sound like it was all bad, but for the most part, it was do you want Pavia or Johnson? And it was one of those, can I choose neither? But again, with reps, with time, now that they've seen it, some of that would, I think will settle them down. They'll kind of get in the groove a little bit. Now Pavia is going to have to, the major red flag is exactly what I thought it was, pushing the ball vertical with Pavia. He underthrows a go route that probably, if he throws it on point, it's probably a touchdown. And it's one of those things where, okay, well, here we go. Here's the red flag. You're seeing it. And is that enough? In a tight race, it could be, right? But it seemed like when Pavia faltered, Johnson wouldn't take advantage, and vice versa. When Johnson faltered, Pavia couldn't take advantage. And nobody had any command today. And I'm disappointed, but I think overall, I don't think it's time to press the panic button. I don't think it's time to be like, oh boy, our quarterbacks, they suck. Oh no. Pull my hair out. I don't think we're there yet. All right. But I think we're at a point to where you're starting to kind of see Tim Beck and Jerry Kill push these guys, put them in situations, give them play calls that is very likely they won't be able to handle, and see what they do with it and see how they do it. And they didn't do well with it. They didn't pass that test. So I think you're, when you look at it, when you evaluate it, this one's going to be chalked up. Again, it's going to be chalked up as a draw. This time it's a negative draw. And the reps, hopefully they learn from them. Hopefully Diego finds a way to push the ball vertical, because I think there's a lot of wins there if you can push the ball vertical. And Nate Johnson, if you're listening to this, your opportunity will come if you can take care of the football and be able to hit the vertical passing game, because I think that's where Vanderbilt's going to win. I think Vanderbilt's got to win getting the ball vertical. I think they have to connect on some, even if they don't score every time. I think they have to connect on the 20-plus vertical passes, probably 30-40%, because as I said in an earlier show, that's akin to the three-pointer in basketball. It's a lower percentage shot, but it gives you a higher momentum factor when you start hitting those. And when you get a team that starts getting red hot on hitting those, usually those teams, they push the leads out. They're really successful. So if they can start hitting those routes, I think this Vandy offense will score and soar sky high. Sky's the limit, right? I think the running game will improve too. I think communication has got to get better as far as who to block, what to block. I think some of the schemes will be adjusted. Some of the blocking angles will be adjusted, because I think you're going to get a lot of movement versus these looks. I think when gap exchanging, moving, blitzing off the edge, when you're trying to stop pin and pull, when you're trying to stop counter, when you're trying to stop outside zone, moving, creating false reads, false keys. When your A gap guy goes away to the B gap and you chase him, it opens up a big lane for the linebacker to come through and knock your running back in the teeth. Like it's the discipline of staying on your path and hoping and assuming that and expecting that your teammate who's responsible for the B gap will take the guy that goes from B to A and be able to handle that. So, I mean, it's going to come down to the quarterbacks just settling in, making the throws. Diego Pavia is going to have to be extra sharp on intermediate to short. Nate Johnson is going to have to really get good at launching. I'm going to call it launching threes, essentially, and being able to run explosively. He has a legitimate chance, still does. But moral of the story: Randon Fontenette is a baller. If you don't take anything away from that, be excited about our 2 defensive transfer portal guys, Corday Sidnor and Randon Fontenette. And with that, I'm going to leave you here on this hump day. Thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Follow the show at Locked On Vandy. Follow me at Coach Burton36, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. As always, behave yourselves and anchor down.